Okay, you have got to hear this story because it sounds like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood script. We're talking A-list stars, a franchise people absolutely love, and a wait that's lasted for almost 2 decades. But the craziest part? The most unexpected character in all of this is a former US president who is now apparently personally lobbying to get the sequel made. And that right there is the big question. Why on earth would a former president of the United States get involved in trying to greenlight a movie? I mean, it's not every day you see that kind of political muscle being used to bring back an action comedy duo. So what is really going on here? To really get it, you have to look at 3 key pieces of this whole puzzle. First, there's the movie franchise itself, which people adore. Then, you've got a director who's become a really controversial figure. And finally, the powerful political player trying to make it all happen. Let's start with the film. All right, first things first, let's talk about the project at the heart of all this. This isn't just some random movie. It's the return of a fan favorite that people have been waiting for a very long time. That's right, it's been more than 18 years since Rush Hour 3 came out, way back in 2007. To put that into perspective, an entire generation has grown up without a new one. So you can imagine, the anticipation for a 4th movie is just through the roof. And here's the best part. The original iconic duo is totally on board. Both Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, their on-screen chemistry is what made the franchise a global hit, are reportedly ready to come back for Rush Hour 4. It seems like all the pieces are in place for a monster comeback. Which, leads to the obvious question. If the stars are ready to go and the fans are practically begging for it, what's the holdup? Why hasn't this movie been made already? Well, this is where the story starts to get really complicated. The big complication. You see, the main thing standing in the way isn't the script, it's not the budget, it's not the stars. It's the person who wants to be calling the shots from behind the camera. The whole package being pitched to studios for Rush Hour 4 includes the original director, Brett Ratner. And yeah, he directed the first 3, and they were huge hits, but his involvement today is the #1 reason this project has been stuck in neutral. And this is the fundamental dilemma for any studio. On one side, you have a proven formula for a box office smash, the original stars, the original director. But on the other side, that same director has been pretty much sidelined by Hollywood ever since multiple misconduct allegations came out against him during the height of the Me Too movement. Because of all this, Ratner has basically become what you'd call persona non grata in the industry. For a lot of studios, including Paramount, which was apparently offered the project, his involvement has been described as a total non-starter. They will not work with him. Now, for the record, it is really important to note that Brett Ratner has strongly and consistently denied every single accusation of misconduct that's been made against him. But despite those denials, the industry stance has pretty much stayed the same. So with all the doors in Hollywood seemingly slammed shut, the push for this movie is now coming from a very, very different corridor of power. And this, my friends, is where we get to the political connection. According to reports, former President Donald Trump is personally making the push to the new bosses over at Paramount Pictures to give Rush Hour 4 the green light, and, crucially, to do it with Brett Ratner still attached as the director. This is that lobbying effort that's making this whole thing a major story. So, why the push? Well, it turns out these two have a history. Ratner has apparently been in Trump's good graces for a while now. He recently directed a documentary about Melania Trump, and if you go back to 2011, he even filmed his movie Tower Heist at one of Trump's own properties. So yeah, this relationship isn't new. And here's a really wild little piece of trivia about that movie and their connection. The original script for Tower Heist wasn't just filmed at a Trump hotel. It was actually written to be about a group of guys robbing Donald Trump's own tower. Kind of crazy, right? So, with all these competing forces, you've got fan demand, industry politics, and now a presidential push. What in the world is next for this franchise? Where does it go from here? When you break it down, the situation is actually pretty clear. The path to getting this movie made with Brett Ratner is full of roadblocks because of how reluctant studios are. But the path without him, that looks like a wide-open highway. The appetite for the movie is definitely there, just not for that particular director. And look, it's not like there aren't other talented people who could step in. Some names being thrown around include the director of the new Karate Kid movie, or even the guys who directed the super successful recent Bad Boys films. There are some really solid and much less problematic options out there. But while all this drama plays out, the clock is just ticking. This timeline really puts the long wait into perspective. And maybe the most important part of this whole thing is the human element. Jackie Chan is now in his 70s. If this movie is going to happen with him doing the action we all know and love, it really needs to happen soon.
And so this whole situation leaves us with a final, much bigger question about how Hollywood really works. In an industry that's built on relationships and power plays, where do you draw the line between personal influence and major industry controversy? And can a push from a former president actually change the rules of the game? I guess the future of Rush Hour 4 is going to give us the answer.